let's go ahead and talk about the players on round one, board 3. In Austria, we have Eber Condrell coming to us newly from Denver. Eber's been a frequent player within the Windy City Weasels Club for the past couple of years. So we're glad to see him playing virtually, sad to see him move to Denver. England, JJ Raymond, who we've seen several times on this stream from Santa Monica, California. In France, we have a player that is new to me, Farren Jane from my former home city, Austin, Texas, Hook 'em Horns. Happy to see that. We've actually seen several players from Austin. I'm wondering if they were all to meet up, if they have the makings of a local club in that area. That would be fun to find out if that could happen. In Germany, we have Jaxon Roberts from Orange County, California. Italy is Go Horns Go, Ed Sullivan from Houston. Russia is Seren Kwok, very frequent on our streams, coming to us from London. And in Turkey, we have Hunter Katcher. This particular game, we've had 2 replacements. So it began with Brad Blitzstein in spring of 01, and then Ivan Teknisov replaced Brad in fall of 01, and then Hunter came in spring of 02. So just keep that in mind when we're watching the moves. The 1901 moves were not Hunter, and he filled in after that. So yeah, this looks like a really good bunch of players on this board. Adam, why don't you start us off? Anybody stand out to you? Anything you're interested in?
Well, the Eastern Triangle looks really interesting. I mean, there's a number of players on this board that are not familiar to me, but seeing Eber and Seren and Hunter, and then Ed in Italy, all really experienced players who have played on a number of these tournaments, and really should be an interesting dynamic to see how it goes between that group. Also, always exciting to see some new faces, Farren and Jaxon, who I've not come across before. Really excited to see how they can do on this board. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. Siobhan, anything stand out to you?
I agree with everything that was just said. The only player I know really well is Hunter Katcher, who's a longtime face-to-face player. Again, just going to say happy to see more West Coast players in California. So when we get back to face-to-face, we will all be in touch and get you into our tournaments and our clubs.
All right, well, let's bring up the map and we'll get right into it. Excellent. All right, so Siobhan, you have been taking the even years. Do you want to go ahead and start with the odd years this time?
Sure, let's change it up.
All right, let's do it. So spring of 1901, take it away, Siobhan.
First thing that jumps out to me is yet again we have an Austria who does not cover Galicia and has Russian and Galicia for that effort. The opening to Bohemia is really interesting to me and not something I see, well, just about ever. This Italian does manage to march Rome to Venice and Venice to Tyrolia, loses Piedmont to France in the effort, but France loses Burgundy to Germany for that, and also the English Channel to the English player. There's a lot happening.
There is a lot. What stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, this looks like classic coordination between EG to set up this position. Probably not a traditional sea lion type of opening, but definitely super aggressive. Sorry, not sea lion. Sorry, it is more of a traditional attack against France opening. You might almost expect to have seen the Italian go to Piedmont in this kind of situation. And, France stranding that army in Piedmont with the position is not great. The Bohemia thing is really unusual, as Siobhan pointed out. You've kind of got to wonder where this leaves Austria in the fall, especially losing Galicia, right? I mean, these are some tough choices. You've got to assume that maybe there was some thinking that with Italy and Tyrolia and Austria and Bohemia, maybe they would make an early play on Munich, but you've got to wonder if that's really going to happen now, especially with Italy following up to Venice. Austria's got all kinds of things to be thinking about in the fall.
Yeah, so a couple things stand out to me. One, if you've watched the most recent Deadline News, David Hood did a segment on openings. And if I recall correctly, Austria opening Vienna to Bohemia is like third or fourth most common opening that we've seen in these online games. So that it's surprising to me. This is not a move that I personally use, but it seems to be more common. I wonder if this is just a difference between a face-to-face and online meta. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that move more than a handful of times in 20 plus years of face-to-face play. Um, there's a lot of obviously theory about opening play, and I think maybe one of the general maxims that most people would agree with is do no harm, and that's a move that can really end up doing some harm. And we'll see what happens, but it definitely in this position is not going to be opening up options for Austria.
Yeah, Austria's in a tough spot. Let's go ahead and see what happens and how they respond. Come on.
Oh, that hurts a lot. Loses both Vienna and Trieste to the Italian because the Russian helps the Italian. France walks into Venice, though. Just gave up Paris, but no one gets Belgium. Let's see, the Turk. Yeah, that's fairly standard. The Russian is let into Sweden. Oh, the Austrian. I mean, doesn't have to disband anything, but eesh.
Yeah, facing a very strong wintergreen alliance between Italy and Germany, stays even on the units, but man, this is horrible position.
Yeah.
So, Adam, what
in Germany? I mean, how great an opening is that? Belgium bounces between the French and the English. You've picked up 3 builds. France just covered Mao to Brest, so they're in no position to do anything next year. Out of position in Venice. Italy takes some centers, loses Venice. I mean, I really, Germany, Russia as well, also looking really good from this position. And I think, good decision by Jaxon not to bounce Sweden. That definitely the right thing to do here. You're really setting yourself up for a nice GR alliance, at least in the early years of this game. Yeah, and I think Turkey's probably going to be in a good position too to get out of the box quickly. So we'll see.
Yeah, I got to say, I love this board. It is already very messy, which is a lot of fun and entertaining to watch. I can't wait to see how it plays out. One thing that you covered, Adam, that I thought was interesting is the Germany-Russia alliance. That has been a topic that's come up in some conversations recently about why don't we see that alliance. It is a pretty strong alliance at times, particularly when when England makes it into the Channel. I really feel like that's a strong alliance that we don't get to see very often. So I'm curious to see if Jaxon and Seren are able to stick with it and make it work.
Definitely. I mean, it's super unstable, and I think that's why it doesn't usually last for a very long period of time. But there are ways to make it happen if Russia, minimizes their fleet presence in the north, and is really focusing mostly on dots elsewhere, and and there's some strategic support between the two countries. But it can be very unstable. But at least in the early years, it will be really beneficial if they can keep it going for a little while.
All right. Well, in winter of 01, looks like England continues with pressure on France with the fleet build in Liverpool. Seren opens or builds with the army in St. Pete, which is one of the more versatile units up there. It can go against either party. I personally love this build, this decision. We've got Jaxon with 3 builds. Thankfully, he built Fleet Kiel and then builds Army Munich, Army in Berlin, looking extremely strong. Curious to see if he gets any early lead there. Seren builds in Warsaw. We've got an army in Rome from Ed Sullivan, which makes sense for going against Venice. and then Hunter builds Fleet Smyrna, which absolutely makes sense. Siobhan or Adam, either of you, anything stand out to you about these builds?
I don't really like the Italian build. I would still put a Fleet Naples down and just chase that Venice army with one of the armies in Austria. I actually think it's going to be problematic in the long run, but we'll see how it works out. The problem is you kick him out of Venice and he goes to Apulia, and now you're guessing in the fall. You don't kick him out. You're still guessing whether he might walk to Apulia anyway. Better to just take one unit, chase him around, and have that fleet that you can really grab Tunis with. You can do other things without having to worry about Turkey coming in your back door really quickly.
Siobhan?
What jumps out to me is we're talking a lot about this Germany-Russia alliance, which I think is stronger than ever at this moment. And I think that England was probably sold the idea of the Northern Triple, which is a thing that people talk about a lot, where Germany, Russia, and England just move down. But I think that England is going to have some real problems soon. That fleet build in Liverpool committed him to that. And Seren built north, and we've got a fleet in Kiel. And if they want, the RG can get a jump on him.
Yeah, unless we're misreading the diplomatic situation, I would be shocked if we don't see Denmark to North Kiel to Helgoland right now, right?
Oh, 100%.
Well, let's find out. Adam, why don't you lead us off with the analysis here?
Okay, and there it goes. So clearly, this does look like maybe some degree of coordination between the Germans and the Russians. The fact that Kiel went to Denmark meant that they really felt like there was a good chance they were going to get into Sweden. So this may be continued coordination and just buying some time, or it may be this Northern Alliance, who knows? And there's some agreement about swapping St. Pete and Norway. Doesn't make a lot of sense, though. I think that actually it's a good move for Russia, because now Russia can kick the English out of St. Petersburg in the fall while making sure that they also have Norway. So a nice move on Russia's part to set that up. Russia also makes gains in the south. This is a good position for the Russians. Looks fairly indecisive for the Germans. Munich doesn't go anywhere. Paris doesn't go anywhere. Munich to Burgundy would have had a free walk on to Marseille. Would have liked to see that, maybe. You want to cover Munich, you can do it from Berlin. Putting the army in Kiel probably isn't doing a lot of good for you.
Siobhan, what'd we miss?
I love this board so much. It's so much fun. I think Seren is in an absolutely fantastic position in Russia. And the Turk is making some gains and getting out of that box really fast. Portugal, Spain, and Tunis all being unowned here just is entertaining to me. And we'll see how long that lasts. But for my own entertainment, I want to see them go neutral for a while.
What do you make of, either of you, what do you make of the Italian and French moves around Venice and Tyrolia?
I gather that there was some kind of negotiation where, for the Italians to move up to Tyrolia and maybe, put them somewhere in the fall, in exchange for that. And obviously the French didn't do that. I agree. Like I said earlier, I think dislodging Venice in the spring to go to Apulia is probably not what you want to do. So I think that was the right decision by the Italians this turn. I would assume they'll just try to kick them out in the fall and take it from there.
Yeah, but it will be interesting to see. Austria is going to have a choice on whether they're going to try and force Trieste or defend against Turkey. So I'm curious what they end up doing there.
Well, and I'll say on that note that probably try and force Trieste, because they walked out of Greece. Mm-hmm. It's not like they had to retreat, and that's where they wound up.
Well, let's find out. Adam, take us away.
Yep. It's hard to understand. I understand the Turkey's move. Austria going to Adriatic rather than even taking a shot at Trieste is a little bit surprising. It's sort of a positional gain, but it's a fall turn, and you're basically eliminated now if you don't get a center. So I probably would have gone for something, whether that was taking a shot at Greece or taking a shot at Trieste. But now, we bid a very, very early goodbye to the Austrian player. Italy continues to make progress, though, it's a pretty disjointed position sitting in Vienna and Serbia. They do take Venice back. We do see Spain Spain finally is taken. Portugal's still unowned. I think maybe what's interesting is seeing the French support the Germans into Belgium, and the Germans finally do go into the North Sea. So, England is advanced their position one step forward and many steps back here. Germany's in the catbird seat. Russia's in the catbird seat. France could actually stay in this game as well.
Yeah, from a really rough start, be curious to see if they're able to make something out of this. So, Siobhan, what we miss?
I don't think we missed too much, though I don't think we talked about Albania moving to the Adriatic, which is an interesting choice here. I'm curious to see what he's planning to do with it. And all around, just another banner year for Germany and Russia.
Austria's done. Austria's removing the Adriatic.
They have to, yeah. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they wind up on 1 dot at the end of this, correct?
0, I think.
Greece. No, they keep Greece.
They keep Greece because Italy. I didn't notice that Italy bounced Turkey. I'm sorry, you're correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe they keep Adriatic. Well, they obviously keep it. Well, they could keep Bohemia.
There's some options here.
Well, the fun option is to keep Adriatic. So let's see what they do here. They do not. They keep Bohemia, which is also fun. I see the argument for that. And if you're going to have a chance at trying to stay in the game, maybe somebody will make a deal with you from Bohemia. Probably a little easier than Adriatic, but a little less fun. From England, we've got a fleet build in Edinburgh. So that could signal that's probably just defense against Germany. Mm-hmm. We've got an army build in Brest, so probably going for Paris. Jaxon, 2 builds again. We've got fleet in Kiel, army in Berlin. I love a 3rd German build. We've got fleet in Naples for Ed, army in Warsaw for Seren. So overall, anything stand out to either of you?
No, I think this is what you'd expect to see. I mean, I guess France could have put a fleet in Brest, but I would sort of understand the reason for putting an army down. It gives you probably a little bit more flexibility to negotiate with England.
Yeah, that I'm curious to see if anything comes out of England and France, if they are going to unite here and try and make something happen. So, Siobhan, why don't you lead off in 1903?
Alrighty, and England does his best to defend against the German, disrupts the convoy. So Germany does not get that army into Yorkshire. France does not go for Paris at this point, which I suppose is fine in the spring. The Germans just going to march all of those units west, and that fight continues as it does. However, Seren pulls up into Silesia and Prussia. So this might be the end of that RG that we've been seeing all game. And a lot of shifting around the Balkans, Trieste to Albania, Albania to Greece, and the Italian takes Bulgaria. Is that everything?
There's a lot going on in this turn. This is a really, really big turn.
Yeah.
Well, the Russians stabbed the Turks, right? They supported Italy into Bulgaria.
Yeah.
So they sort of made their decision down there, and that's going to shape the upcoming next parts of this game. I think it's an interesting choice that Russia made to go against Germany rather than staying more focused in the south. We'll see if it pans out. I mean, ultimately, Italy is going to have a pretty big army presence down there. That I think will be problematic for Russia in the long run. To me, the stab on Germany seems premature. Germany's not really that much out of position. Yes, they just sent a whole bunch of stuff west, and yes, they're going to have to pull it back. But you could have waited until they had an army in England, right? And if they had another fleet out, and that second fleet out of the way, right? I think it could have been more effective later, but I could be wrong. We'll see.
Well, and as to that, waiting until they have an army in England, it's Russia's fault that Germany didn't get the army into England because Norway supported the move into North Sea.
That's right. That's right. And I guess the other thing is that, maybe, if with this step, St. Petersburg to Finland might have been a stronger move also.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you supporting Norway if you believe that, unless you really think Germany might be stabbing you for Norway, which just seems so unlikely in that position.
I think I don't hate the choice. It is definitely a strong choice pretty early in the game. But I mean, England's still viable enough that if you feel like you can keep JJ on side and work together against Germany, like who's going to stop you? Like you don't have anybody. Italy is going to work with you. They're going to be your best bud. And France and England are all it's very messy. And Germany's your only real competition. They are moving in the other direction. If you know what they're going to do, why not take a shot at it? I don't hate it. So let's see who's right.
Alrighty, so we have the English now flipping after getting the Russian support into the North Sea and working with Germany to take Norway. So Seren bet wrong there. But Seren does take Berlin. And wow, this Italian position gets more interesting by the moment. Taking Trieste and Greece, but losing Serbia to a retreat because you took Greece. I am okay. And then moving to put yourself in position to get into the fight for the French mainland. Germany holds on to everything and picks up Marseille. Great position. Loses Berlin though, so even. All right. Adam, what do you make of all these arrows?
All right. Say it with me here, Siobhan. Tyrrhenian Sea should go to
Western Med. No, Tunis. Yeah.
Take the darn center already. Why is it still empty? Why is Gulf of Lyon better than getting the dot and getting, to the Western Med next year and having the extra fleet to go in that direction if that's what you want to do?
Because it's entertaining to me, and Ed Sullivan wanted to give me some more entertainment. Thank you.
He's playing for position here, which I get it, but it seems like it was time to take it right now, and you can keep doing this all game and just never take it. But, and now the position is, I don't know if Turkey is actually, if Italy is actually, I guess they are building now, right?
They build one. They picked up two, but lost Serbia.
They build one anyway. I guess if you were confident you were building anyway, maybe, the position is worth it. I don't know. I think it's an interesting choice by Seren to disband the fleet in Norway rather than retreating it to Norwegian or, I guess, or even Barents. And I say that because it's going to be a long time before she has the opportunity to build a Northern fleet again.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you the opportunity to rebuild in Moscow or something like that, and maybe that's what she has in mind, and that's certainly a more defensible position, but I think it's still problematic in the long run. I look at this position and I really think it confirms that this was not a benefit. This stab was not something that's really enhanced the position of Russia very much. It really just, you basically just traded having a strong German ally for now an English ally who may be more reliable. I'm sorry, you lost an English ally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I misspoke. So now you've got Germany and England against you instead of having Germany with you. So we'll see if she can negotiate it and improve the situation, but it may be difficult.
For our builds, we've got a fleet in Eddy from JJ, so it looks like England is continuing on against Russia. We've got Russia building an army in Warsaw, so probably playing towards the pretty empty middle of the board there. So I kind of understand that build.
Mm-hmm.
In Naples absolutely has to make that build for Italy, and then Hunter builds a fleet in Smyrna, which again, that's you have to make that. So anything stand out here? I feel like these are pretty much, other than the army in Warsaw, that's pretty much the only choice on the board from my perspective.
Yep.
All right. So, Adam, why don't you lead us off here?
Yep. Sorry. So I don't know if this was a coordination. It looks like a coordination between England and Germany in the north. I think probably the move for Germany moving to Norway was probably arranged.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it was just an opportunity to get units in position to attack St. Petersburg. Seren wisely moves up to Livonia to protect St. Petersburg. And continues to work with the Italians in the south and make progress against Turkey. That's a tough turn for Turkey. They are losing Serbia, Bulgaria. They do retreat into Greece, but I'm not sure whether that's something they're going to be able to hold or not. In the west, France finally retakes Paris. Italy takes Marseille, but the English continue coming. Which I think is probably makes sense for England to not put too much, let Russia and Germany fight and maybe keep that slow plate up there while you can try to make gains elsewhere. So I like what England's doing.
Siobhan?
I'm just going to point out that we have a continued little dipsy doodle in the Balkans where every time they try and kick the Turk out of any center, he retreats into someone else's center. Last year, it went from Greece to Serbia on a retreat. This time it goes from Serbia back to Greece. And the only other thing that I think is really A+ play here is Seren bouncing Norway so that she can protect it in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Or protect St. Pete.
Yeah, definitely does not want to be out of St. Pete if she's trying to build that line there. And they do have the units that they could force it, but it would take a lot of effort. Yeah. All right. Well, continuing on, Adam, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I mean, this is repositioning. Germany goes to Sweden, England goes to Norway. They've got 3 on St. Petersburg now, so they'll be able to take it next year. Meanwhile, I think Germany's making some interesting choices. I don't know whether they're good or bad, but the decision to retake Marseille rather than put 2 against Munich to hold Munich is an interesting one. I think usually you probably want to protect your home centers, especially in the middle of the board as Germany. This is going to be really problematic going down 2 home centers, even though overall you still got a number of centers, a number of units. In the east, the Turks do manage to hold Greece. So again, 1 step forward, 1 step back for the Italians there. And once again, they do not take Tunis. So we are going into 1905 with unowned Tunis. Very, very exciting and not a super common occurrence.
Yeah, and I think Hunter deserves a shout out here for just fighting and hanging on. This has been really, it's got to be frustrating for Italy and Russia to have this person that just won't give up and won't die. So shout out to Hunter for I don't know if it can last, but it's been incredibly entertaining to watch.
Sure. I think the point is every turn Hunter is probably going to Russia and saying, "You ready to move on Italy? You ready to move on Italy?" And he's going to Italy and saying, "You ready to move on Russia? Are you ready to move on Russia?" And it hasn't happened so far, but the longer he can hold out, obviously it's going to happen at some point. And if he's still remotely viable at that stage, he could get back into this game, and that's what I think he's playing for right now. It's a frustrating position to be in. He's going to have a disband this year. If they keep grinding on him, he will get taken out. But he's putting in a great fight.
Yeah. And if I were Hunter, I would be really pushing on Seren more than Ed. I think it's better from a position standpoint. And then Ed has also stated publicly he's trying to have a alliance player mentality and reputation. So if that stab happens, that would go against that reputation he's been working on building. So be curious.
There's a super case here to say to Russia, like, you make the play into Trieste, towards Trieste and Vienna. You let me take Bulgaria, and we roll from there. That's all I want. You give me that, I have my 5 centers in the south. I've got something that's holdable. We don't even need to escalate units. You can stay fighting against Germany, and you stay on top. I'll be the second person as long as I'm a couple unit, only a couple centers behind you. We can roll this, and I think it's a compelling argument. I think it's a really compelling argument.
Mm-hmm. Siobhan, did we miss anything?
I think the big thing that y'all missed is that the 3 Western powers have finally sorted out all of their differences and are supporting each other. I think they've seen the very real threat of the Wintergreen and have said, you know what? Let's just help each other, because England supports France and Spain. France supports Germany back into Marseille. We've got some repositioning. I don't think we're going to see too much fighting between the 3 of them.
Yeah, and they've got the unit mix between them. Even though they lost Munich, they should be able to take it back if they stick together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I question the long-term stability of this, especially with France building now and so forth. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a long-term stable alliance, but it definitely gives France in particular some life. So.
It's probably stable to the end of 1904.
All right. Well, let's get some builds, and then after this, we'll play a game of which power do you like. So for our builds, okay, that was not what I was expecting from France. A build of the fleet in Brest. We've got a build of an army in Moscow and Warsaw for Seren in Russia. We've got a disband of Holland and Denmark from Jaxon in Germany. Hunter disbands the army in Greece. Anything stand out on this build?
I mean, Jackson's got a bunch of bad choices. I think an argument could have been made that maybe Bothnia would have been a good, a stronger disband, and keep maybe. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess Bothnia, you're still fighting Russia. Holland's probably better. No, I mean, I guess this is probably right. If you're sticking with England and you have to, those are probably the right disbands.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what this screams is I've made a choice.
Yeah.
I am sticking with England, and maybe France knew that, and that's why they built the fleet in Brest. I don't hate, like, if the army, if France had built an army instead of the fleet, then I don't like the disband. But the way that they did it, that's signaling, hey, I'm with JJ. We're doing this.
I mean, the fleet in some ways is more Tripoli than an army would have been, right? Because you can go Mao down to North Africa or something like that, and Brest can go into Mao. So actually, to me, this looks like it actually may continue playing this sort of Tripoli thing. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. All right, so we'll go ahead and pause here. I think, Siobhan, I'll let you go first. Who do you like on this board? Who do you want to be?
I mean, I still like the Russian position the best. The Italian, while strong, is scattered all over the place and with no real path to growth. We'll see how long this triple holds together and if they're able to make any real progress against Russia, but I think Seren just needs to not lose this.
Adam?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think the Russian position is pretty solid here. A 9-center Russia is not impossible to take down. We've seen it happen so many times. But without Italy being in any position to do that, and Italy is actually in a potential position to get hammered if Seren chooses to do that, in lieu of protecting everything in Germany. It's hard to see somebody else coming out on top unless there's a major change in this board.
So let's say hypothetically, Russia does move against Italy, which I think would be very juicy here. Who do you like in the West there? Who benefits from that?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know the dynamic between the 3 powers. I think to some extent, England's might be in the driver's seat more than anybody else to make that decision. Though the gains for England aren't immediately obvious. I mean, I could see if Russia makes the decision to go after Italy, maybe as an exchange for England and France trying to make an attack on Germany, so that Russia feels more comfortable in not having to deal with that in the long term. I could see that being a good play, certainly for her. And then maybe England can become the bigger power in the West. I don't know.
Siobhan, why don't you go ahead and lead us off with tactics?
Sounds like a plan. Okay. For now, the wintergreen continues. Italy doesn't do a ton of movement, does get into Western Med, does get into the Aegean. Seren, similarly, a couple of things move, but not too much. It's honestly, this is a turn where people are setting up their units to do more next turn, and we'll see if Tunis finally gets taken in 1905.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a ton to add to that. I mean, it's the West versus the West plus Turkey, I guess, against the East, right? Against the wintergreen, as we're calling it. That's going to get tough for Turkey, and we'll see what Hunter's able to do. But I wonder how much of this is sort of this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of just going to lock things up, but quickly. The West doesn't want to break because the RI won't break, and the RI won't break because the West won't break, and maybe they kill Turkey and call it a night.
I think you're probably right about that. That seems most logical unless someone does flip. But what I've seen from Seren in the past is she's a pretty strong alliance player. I believe I saw someone commenting earlier that she loves the Wintergreen Alliance. So
just before we see the fall moves, bets on whether Tunis gets taken in 1905 or not?
No.
I mean, you'd think it ought to be, but
I see a reasonable chance that there's a 1-to-1 bounce there.
I think it's a 1-to-1 bounce because I don't think Italy actually wants to give up West, and that's how they'd have to guarantee it.
Well, let's find out.
Oh,
darn!
Why would England do that? Well, England, I guess he was thinking that France was going to go to Western Med. Miscommunication.
Yeah, clearly a failure to communicate.
Yeah, and someone in the comments just reminded me that this is also the game where we had 3 different players playing Turkey in the first 3 seasons.
Oh, okay. So who's actually? Do we know who?
It is Hunter in the end. He came in, I believe, in spring of 2002. I don't know what the story is behind it, but
yeah, that's right.
But anyway, fall. So okay, Tunis gets taken. It was about time. The Wintergreen, they take Greece. They lose St. Petersburg. I mean, this is just a shuffling of units and deciding when the draw is going to happen. There do seem to be a few suboptimal moments happening. NAF supporting Spain to West being one of them. But
Adam?
I guess you wonder a little bit about the Italians supporting the French into Marseille, right? That's the only kind of curious thing here.
And I just noticed that France took Belgium from Germany as well.
Yeah.
So they're cutting German out.
They're cutting Germany out, which I guess actually, if that's the case, is maybe, they could have tried to take Sweden. I guess St. Petersburg was guaranteed, and that's taking off the other side. But, well, are they cutting Germany out? Germany is at 3, 4, 5, 6, and has 6 units. Okay, so they're not playing. Nobody's playing short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it is. I don't know if there's coordination between England and France here. I wonder if this is just Ed whispering the devil on the shoulder into Farren's ear, saying, "Hey, we'll get you a dot," and just trying to break things up a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that France takes 2 dots and only has 1 place to build, right?
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
All right, so winner of 1905 builds. France builds an army in Brest, and Germany disbands the army in Gascony. So, in essence, a swap between those two.
And Finland.
Got fleet in Naples. Hunter disbands Khan from Turkey. Germany disbands army in Finland, and it looks like JJ builds a fleet in London. Siobhan, anything stand out to you here?
Nothing stands out to me here too much. I think Hunter in Turkey, keep the fleets, but now you got to decide whether you're protecting Khan or Black. And it's only a matter of time before they carve him out. I don't know that he had a better choice per se. France not being able to put down both builds is disappointing, but we'll see where they go.
Yep. Adam, anything to add? All right. So Adam, why don't you lead us off in spring 1906?
That's exciting. Well, there's clearly looks like the Italians. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that looks like a stab.
It is. I mean, he told him he would convoy him to Constantinople, then didn't do that and took Greece instead, walks into Serbia.
Yeah, that looks like a stab. I'm just trying to see how effective it is, given that there's a retreat right into Bulgaria, and I don't think there's any way to take Bulgaria back. I guess that you can take Budapest as well. So you're really taking Greece, Serbia, and Budapest in exchange for Bulgaria. Yeah, that's reasonable, okay. I guess. That's not too bad. And I guess this is the right time to do it when you've just had France stabbing Germany. England is set up to do all kinds of shenanigans potentially against France with that extra fleet going down to the English Channel. So I like the timing of it. I'm not, I can't say whether it's the right move or not, but it's probably, if you're going to do it, this is probably the time to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Italy takes Budapest, Serbia, and Greece supports the Turk into Bulgaria, so the Russian doesn't get to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the right move, but it's certainly the fun move.
It's more entertaining, yeah.
So continuing on, fall 1906.
Yeah. Okay, so they actually, interesting that Russia does it that way. So Russia, I see. So Russia supports Bulgaria to Serbia while letting the Turks take Bulgaria. Okay, that makes sense. And so this really ends up being a one-dot stab, essentially, right? You're taking Greece and Budapest and losing Bulgaria.
But not to the Russian, at least.
Right, you're losing it to the Turks, who you really had on the fritz until right now. And
yeah, I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying.
Turkey's position's looking like, okay, maybe we're coming out of the box at this point. So, is that what you wanted to do? Okay,
coming out of the box, allying with Russia.
And allying with Russia, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. The middle of the board looks like a lot of red arrows, and I can't really entirely tell who's supporting who to what and what to who, but it looked like both the Russians and the Germans were going after Kiel. So interesting that the Germans decided to protect Kiel rather than making it a more aggressive play onto Belgium. Shows that they're annoyed at the French, but not so annoyed that they're willing to sacrifice.
All right, yeah, this is a big turn. So moving on to our builds, we've got Ed in Italy building an army in Venice. Hunter builds an army in Smyrna. Seren has to go down 2, disbands Sev and Moscow, clearly indicating making a deal with Turkey. So we've got a very late game juggernaut going. If you can even call it a juggernaut this late.
You sure, Ryan? You sure about that?
No, you are correct. It's not guaranteed. Maybe Russia believes in the juggernaut, so see.
Russia really wants to believe in the juggernaut. Yes. And kids, if you believe hard enough, those alliances you want so badly will still never come your way.
That's the story of every game that I've played. So. All right, spring of 1907. Siobhan, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, so Seren was so hopeful. We get Smyrna to Armenia, which even in spring of 1907 is a beautiful thing to see, even if Hunter is not a weasel. Seren's going to spend her time trying to punish the Italian for his now, in retrospect, terrible stab. And we get some movement in the west, dotting France for Portugal. That's about it. Everything else just bounces.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Because the Italian stab on Russia opened the door to all kinds of Western shenanigans. So it should be no surprise that England would move in this way, given where they're at. And I wouldn't be shocked to see a play at Sweden in the fall, for example, right, to just solidify that position in the north. So we'll see. I'm not overly surprised to see the Turks do what they just did because why not?
Yeah, like, what do you have to lose?
Well, I mean, I guess the only question is, do you feel like by doing this, you're potentially making Italy's position too strong, right? But maybe not. The dots that you can take are clearly more obvious if you do this than if you stick with Russia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so suddenly we've got JJ in England at 5, but positionally it looks like they've got all kinds of opportunities for growth. And then I think the interesting question is going to be, could Ed and Seren make up? Are they going to say, hey, you know what? Oops, I made my attempt. Shame on me. Let's get the band back together. Or is there emotional bad blood between them? I'm real curious to see what happens between the two of them. So fall of 1907. What happened?
No.
No.
I mean, I think it's probably not surprising. This is a really hard position to disentangle from. Of course, it's probably who is it played out well for? I don't think it's played out well for Italy. I don't think it's played out well for Russia. But Hunter,
yeah,
well done. So there we go.
And England as well is getting some benefit out of this. They'll be up 2
at
the end.
Great, right? It's a great. Oh, and what happens in Sweden as we suspected, right?
Exactly. No, I think the witches benefit.
Oh, totally. I mean, this is great. England's going to come out of this really well. I mean, Italy does take Spain. France is now in a world of pain. What went wrong in France? Why did Italy get in there? Does England support Italy in? Yeah. Okay. England supported it. Okay.
All right. So from all of those shifts of centers, we see French disband in Marseille, 2 English fleets. We've got in Eddie and in London. Hunter builds another army in Ankara. Seren has 2 more disbands in the center of the board. Anything stand out to either of you here?
Well, I think the question for Turkey is what now? You've got a fleet in Romania, a fleet in the Black Sea, and a fleet in Bulgaria. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how are you going to manage this position? Especially since you don't have opportunities to do a lot of movement given where Russia is sitting right now. Of course, you're going to get some cuts from Italy, but you're not really in a great position to start moving units around and repositioning the fleets into a position, into a way that they can be helpful. So I like what Turkey has done here, and I think he's done a great job with the units that he had. But it's going to take a little bit of time to reposition, I think.
Yeah, especially because the fleet's in the south coast and they can't even support each other. Yeah. All right, Siobhan, why don't you lead us off in 1908?
Oh, is that an NMR from Russia?
Yowzers.
That's painful right here. But it does allow Turkey the opportunity to shift those fleets around, which he would not have been otherwise able to do.
This looks like they're ending the game. I mean, everybody's holding. Look at the position.
Oh yeah, no, this is a couple of people holding out, but everyone's saying no, this isn't going to change.
Yep. Oh no, they're still playing.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh wow.
Okay, well at least this is more interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
This is more interesting in the spring. What can you go back?
Let's go back. Yeah, absolutely. So good. So first of all, good on everyone who put orders in, even if they thought there was going to be a draw.
I mean, I have to wonder if there was some sort of like miscommunication with the deadline and a number of people.
Really strange. This is really weird, right?
Yeah, Brandon, if you're listening, do you think you could get any info for us?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some intel on why this happened. It's really strange.
It's coordinated holds.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the fall.
In the comments, JJ says, just to be clear, everyone agreed to draw and support hold other than Turkey. So one person did not agree, and now they have to continue playing.
Good for you, Hunter. All right. Good for you.
All right. So, in the fall, go ahead, Siobhan.
Okay, let's see what's changing hands here. For the most part, not too much. Russia takes Vienna. France takes Spain, which makes Italy down 2. That's painful here, Ed. And everyone else says, okay, let me start to shift my units around. I'll take a dot off of Russia, says Germany. I mean, we're cruising up to the end game, and so really it's just going to be about trading a few more dots.
Well, what's cool here is that it really seems to be about trading dots, right? I mean, why is England supporting France into Spain, right? I mean, there's no other way to get the dot off of Italy. And so if the idea is get your board leader down by a dot, that's one way you can do it, even though it's sort of contrary to what you've been trying to achieve the past few years.
Yes, but it does mean that England would tie for the board top if it
drew. No, exactly. No, I think exactly. That's what I mean. It's about trading dots. It's not necessarily about some bigger strategy, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, and with Russia taking Vienna, it actually means that England will take the lead.
So in the comments, we've got a couple players pointing out that they're using the backstabber interface for the draws rather than having the GM adjudicate the draws, which is different than several of the other tournaments that we've done so far. So as a result of that, there is a slight difference in the behavior for when you see the draw results. So that probably explains the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
So, all right. So moving on to winter of 08, we've got Farren building an army in Paris from France. Jaxon in Germany is building a fleet in Kiel. Hunter builds an army in Smyrna. Anything stand out?
I think the fact that your biggest power is a 7-center England in the end of 1908 stands out to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that England has only fleets.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Yeah, that's definitely a balance of power style game. So, all right, spring of 1909. Adam, why don't you take it?
Yeah, sure. So Turkey is getting some position, and maybe miscommunication. They pulled out of Aegean into Khan last turn, which I assume was just an alliance move with Italy, and now Italy moves into the Aegean, but doesn't really follow up in any way that makes sense. So I would imagine that might be a miscommunication over something. Maybe they were supposed to bounce or something like that. What else? Italy's decline does continue, though, as well. I don't know if that's a decline or not. I guess they trade Serbia and Trieste. In the West, what is going on here? England is giving up Sweden in favor of doing something with their fleets. Maybe try to line up around France. Without knowing a little bit more about the negotiation, this is hard to understand. It certainly doesn't look friendly to France, but it also wasn't terribly aggressive either. So I don't quite know what to make of it.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that they could guarantee a supported attack on Brest in the fall, it's not much, but sure.
Can they guarantee Brest? They have Picardy to support.
Tap Picardy with North.
Picardy, that can't be tapped.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I know this board really well.
You-
You should
you-
listen to me.
President of the North American Diplomacy
Can we
Federation.
do diplomacy sometime, Siobhan?
I've been doing this for over 5 hours. Come on.
All right. So the one thing that kind of stands out to me is Italy moving into Ionian. I wonder if maybe this is a signal that they're making a play on Turkey from this position. I don't know. If I were planning on getting French dots, that's not the direction I'd be moving that fleet.
Aegean and Ionian.
Yeah. So real curious there, combined with the move to Serbia. I don't think that this move to Trieste was agreed on, so I don't know if there's an alliance between the two of them. I think this may just be a solo push against Turkey. So we'll find out. Moving on into the fall. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so obviously the Turks do not trust the Italians from this position and cover Smyrna. It looks a lot like the Russians and the Turks are now sort of like, okay, we're cool. Actually, nobody's really doing a whole lot.
The Italian takes Marseille.
The Italian takes Marseille, but there's not a whole lot of other things. Again, this looks like everybody will have thought, or at least England and perhaps some other powers thought a draw was going to be accepted, and it wasn't, I guess, because I'm told that this game is continuing into round 2 and that we need to stop at the end of 1909. So this certainly is a turn that looks like, there was just some agreed upon position that clearly did not play out in that way.
Yeah, this is the kind of game where everybody's like, oh, I'm voting for the draw. I voted for it. And everybody's blaming the other people for voting down the draw. It's a lot of fun. I love hidden unanimous draws just because it creates this kind of situation.
What's the count? Let's see what the count is. So right now, if it's stopped, we still have Italy on top, which probably, I could imagine Turkey and others not being happy with that outcome.
Yeah, so last time we had England at 7, and it looks like they go down to 6. So maybe everybody was saying, hey, we're going to split the 6-6-6 and just...
And then Italy snuck into Marseille.
And then, yeah. So, all right, well...
6 would be what a perversion of a result that would be.
Yeah, somebody's like, we can't have that. Why don't we have Adam go ahead and kick off the analysis of the 1909 builds?
Yeah, sure. So if we recall, in the fall, it looked like maybe we were playing towards a draw, and the only real movement was the Italian taking the French dot in Marseille. And so the consequences of everything is that we see the Italians put another army down. The French disband their last fleet, clearly showing that they're probably not that concerned with England right now, and England pulls one of their fleets out of the Irish Sea. Germany sensibly puts down an army in Berlin.
All right, Siobhan, anything else stand out to you?
No, I don't think either of us is too surprised by anything we're seeing here. This is a game that's dragging on through the last few years. I think they keep trying to agree to a draw, and someone keeps voting it down. So,
well, you've got to be looking at the supply center count and saying, this is 1910, and our biggest power is at 7 centers. We've got our smallest powers at 4 centers, aside from the eliminated Austria. I mean, this board right here could be a 1905 board, right? And so. It's been slow to develop, and it's one of those games that could go on a long while.
Yeah, so I don't want to spend a ton of time, but just kind of as a reset, Siobhan, if you were to pick anyone here, who do you feel like does anyone have an edge for topping this board?
I mean, the fleets are in the wrong place, but I don't hate Hunter's position. The German isn't bad either. I don't like any of them, really. I would like the English more if they had at least one army.
Yeah. Adam?
In this position, I actually don't mind that England doesn't have any armies. This is not a position where they're going for 14 centers or something like that. To top this board, 8, 9, 10 centers might be enough. I think England and Turkey are in the catbird seat here.
Yeah, man, if Hunter comes back to top this board, good on him. That was not looking good for him earlier. All right, Siobhan, why don't you lead us off with the 1910 analysis?
Yeah, just right off the board, the Russian and the Italian are continuing to fight. I always love to see two units trying to retreat to the same spot. So when they both went to Albania, which was their only option, granted, but so both those units get piffed. The English player has decided not to take anything more off France and is just pivoting everything down through the Mediterranean. We'll pick up Tunis easy, and Turkey walks into Moscow.
All right, Adam, anything to add?
Well, when I just think about the flow of this game, there was a super solid IR alliance through a lot of this game. And when you look at the development of the game since that alliance broke up, it really hasn't played out well for either of them. Neither of them are in dire straits exactly, but neither of them are doing that well at all. And I think this just goes to show that, people are eager to look, and even us in the commentary are saying, okay, you can stab now, you can stab now. But the reality is, unless it's done at the right time and done really well, it can be really devastating to both parties.
Well, and in this instance, Hunter in Turkey picks up Moscow off of Russia and Serbia off of Italy. So they're both losing to Hunter in this case. And they both take a unit off the board from the bounce retreat.
All right. And in fall of 1910.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Turkey.
So Turkey and Russia are now fully working together. Turkey puts Russia into St. Petersburg, which explains why Russia let him walk into Moscow, putting the Russian into Trieste so the Italian doesn't take it. I mean, I don't see how this late-breaking juggernaut doesn't just roll in the end.
Well, I think the other thing that's interesting is that the Germans seem to be supporting the RT, right? You see that they get a cut on Norway. You get that advancement of units towards Skagerrak, setting up against England. So, England continues to work against France, which you got to have a friend, I guess, which is why England's sticking with France and probably sees France as their best ally. Unfortunately, France might also be their best source of dots, but right now those dots may be better being French, for England, for what England needs to accomplish in this game. So I can't knock that.
All right. In winter of 1910, we see Russia using their newly found center to build an army in Warsaw. Italy builds in Rome, and Hunter in Turkey builds in Ankara.
And playing one short as Turkey.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
And England's down to 5. He has to pull Barents Sea. I mean, that was a pretty negative turnaround, going from leading the board, I think, a year or 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, and if Russia and Germany continue working together, they stand to lose even more too. So, All right, Adam, why didn't you lead us off in 1911?
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening here, right? Russia seems not to care very much about the fact that Turkey is just sort of following in behind her, and maybe there's an agreement, and it's like Turkey says I'll top and you come in second, and just work with me and we'll make it happen, and that wouldn't be a terrible play for Russia to be making at this stage of the game, considering the position she's in. Conversely, she really does pull back into Austria, which doesn't necessarily suggest that's what's on her mind. Elsewhere, France is continuing to attack Italy. England is finally pulling that fleet from the mid-Atlantic down into the Western Med. Italy's going to take some pain this turn, it looks like.
And France does take Marseille, but winds up losing Spain in the retreat.
Yeah, not a great turn for Italy. Let's see if they're able to do anything from this position. Fall of 1911.
Yeah, and so obviously, well, not obviously, but not surprisingly, the English take Spain back with, presumably that's with help from, what is Marseille actually?
No, Marseille held.
Is Marseille holding, or actually Marseille is holding?
Yeah.
Okay.
So England took it of their own accord.
Obviously, France probably doesn't mind this, aside from the Italian retreat into mid-Atlantic. um, Turkey continues just advancing at Russia's expense. At this stage, you kind of have to wonder what kind of agreement they do or don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a nasty turn for Russia. Russia's down to what, 3 centers or something like that. Not helping the case. But hats off to Hunter. Hunter's going to have a nice clean board top here.
All right. Well, in winter of 1911, we see Seren disbanding the army in Finland. We've got JJ building a fleet in London. Farren builds a fleet in Brest. Ed is disbanding his army in Piedmont, the fleet in Ionian, and also disbanding the army in Albania. Hunter continues to roll the army in Ankh, fleet in Smyrna. Man, what a turnaround for the Turk.
Yeah. This is Hunter. Well done. Very seriously. And I mean, right now at this point in the game, it feels like everyone's a little fatigued. This game has been going on for quite a while. And I don't see, given round 2 starting also, that anyone has the energy to try and take this from Hunter.
No, I mean, I would imagine that, and Hunter, I would imagine, would take a draw in this position. He's got 10 centers. It's a solid board top. They've been going at this for hours. I mean, he can keep playing and trying to take a couple more centers. He, won't hold St. Petersburg in the long run. Budapest, if Russia's working with him, he'll hold it. Otherwise, there could be some problems down there. But ultimately, he's going to take the board top inevitably here.
All right. Well, in spring of 1912, Siobhan, you want to lead us off? You don't need to, because this is actually where the game ends. So.
Well, I will stick with the I don't think this game is going to go on very much longer. Analysis spot on.
Well done. Well done. So congratulations to Hunter Katcher, pulling what it looked like, I think 1903. Yeah, down to 4 centers, retreating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at this position. What a great job to come back. I mean, it's one thing that you could make the argument that the Italian stab on Russia is what led to this. But I mean, Hunter's down to 3 centers here in 1905, and to come back and top this, there was a lot of work that was done there. So well played, Hunter, and man, what a fun way to end this game.
Well, I would definitely argue that the Italian stab on Russia is what led to this. I mean, obviously Hunter played a fantastic game. I mean, and he took advantage of every opportunity. He played great tactically when he was under fire. But this would not have happened had those two, figured it out and kept rolling west for a little bit longer.
Yeah. So Siobhan, right result?
I mean, I think given everything that happened this game, the Italian stab, Hunter, like Adam said, took advantage of everything that was given to him and played it well. So I'm happy with this result.